Today, we're diving into something I wish more people talked about when it comes to nutrition, and it's eating for your body. Not what's trending, not what worked for your friends, not what a fitness influencer is promoting, not what you see on TikTok or Instagram, but what actually feels good for you physically, mentally, energetically. Because the truth is, most people are walking around completely disconnected from their body. They don't know what foods give them energy or what throws them off because they've never learned to actually listen to their body. They've followed so many diets, rules, and plans that they've outsourced all their decisions, and now they don't trust their own cues. So, in this episode, we're talking about how to tune back in, pay attention to how food actually feels in your body, and build a way of eating that works for you long term. But before we do, I know you've been had a lot of dance activities for your girls. Catch us up on that.
Yeah, surprise, right? Something we don't do too often. So this weekend, yeah, I was actually thinking about it because today was just really nice and slow, and the way I like kind of a summer day to be is this weekend they had UDA dance camp, which is it's a lot of fun. It's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is up in the mountains in the Smoky Mountains, and they have a blast. They basically get together with their team from the school as well as other schools, and the UDA puts them through all kinds of different routines, and they learn them, and then they have to perform them, and so they have a blast. It's a good learning experience. Plus, it's kind of their one of the ways they get to earn the opportunity to go to Orlando and compete for nationals. So it's a lot of fun. They enjoy it. They get to stay in a hotel up there. And the thing for us, so it's about an hour and a half away or so. And so, of course, we have to drop them off. And then I have to come back. And then this year, for eighth graders and high school seniors, they do like this all American thing. So my youngest daughter is in eighth grade. And so we had to drive back up on Monday, an hour and a half just to watch her perform, and then come back. And then Tuesday we had to go back up there to get her, and then I had to and then bring it back. So it was a lot of driving this time around, and it takes up a lot of your day. But in the end, it was worth it, of course, because they have a blast. It's just a lot of driving around.
Yeah, like it's just far enough away where it's pretty inconvenient to be like making that big of a commute back and forth multiple times.
I know. And the frustrating thing too is it's not that far. It's just there's a lot of traffic to get through this one area, and then you're having to go up into the mountains, and half the time one of the lanes is blocked off and things like that. So we always have an interesting trip. I saw a bear this time. Not like, well, so there's a lot of bears. Bears are pretty common up in the Smoky Mountains, but there was in Gatlinburg, in the actual city, we were driving through, and there was a bear on the sidewalk, and it was yeah, about the size of a large dog, and people were like crowding around it, and this one guy's like, I want to pet it, and I'm like, my gosh, like it's insane. They get so comfortable with people, and I think people get so they're like, oh wow, cool bear, and obviously if it's only the size of a dog, this is like a baby bear, so mama bear is somewhere around there, so it can be super dangerous. But I mean, I get it. I remember one time when I was my brother and we were younger. I was actually with my whole family, and we had driven up to Smoky Mountains, and we were in this one area called Cades Cove, and there was a big tree in the middle of this area, and there was a mama bear as well as like three or four babies like climbing in the tree. And so people were just pulling over, getting out of their car, walking up to the tree, and like checking everything out and wanting to get as close as possible. And of course, my brother and I were like, let's hop out and go check it out. And my parents are like, we're good. You guys, you're crazy. And so my brother and I were kind of talking about, we're looking around, and we're kind of judging the people around us. And I was like, well, if the bear does decide to take someone out, surely both of us can outrun 90% of the people around us. So we're good. We don't have to worry about it. Just be aware. If that bear starts coming, we're out of here.
This is why we train.
Exactly. Yes. Side note, I can also outrun most of the people that would be attacked by a bear.
I love it.
So we always have a good time. But yeah, yeah, it was cool. The other thing I was thinking about as well is one of the days we had to get up there early, and I didn't really get a chance to get my workout in, and I had other things going on that day. I had a lot of work to do on my own, I think I had to mow the lawn, just about other things. Like I just don't really feel like going to the gym, later on in the afternoon, and so this is where I adapt and modify things, and so instead of, which I've done in the past, instead of getting mad or upset, I have to miss a workout, or I don't get to do the workout the time I want or the way I want it. I come up with some kind of fun challenge. So like this time, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do as many squats as I can throughout the day. I'll probably do like 10 body squats like every hour, maybe double it, triple it. Just kind of depends on my mood. And just whenever I think about it, I just do like 10 body weight squats. And is it going to like, am I going to hit PRs? Am I going to gain tons of muscle doing that? No, but it's fun. It sends that message still to my body saying, hey, I want to preserve my muscle here. And, by the end of the day, you do like 150 squats or something like that. And, you feel good.
I love that. That is really fun because it's not something that you would typically do, and it's so easy to squeeze it in, like whenever you think about it, or whenever you get up, or when you have a little extra time, you just bust down and do a few. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people can implement too on just a day-to-day, week-to-week basis when they're at work or just like they need to get something in and they don't have time for a full workout. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've even done it in the past where I've challenged my girls, and we've done different things like jumping jacks or squats. Or it's also fun sometimes to say, let's do as many like jumping jacks as we can today. But I'm not going to tell you how many I'm doing, and you don't tell me. And then at
Oh.
the end of the day, so like if I see her doing something like, oh, I got to do some, whatever it may be, and so it's fun to be able to, because then you just have to go as many as you can, just whenever you
Mhm.
think about it, because you don't know how many they're doing, and so it's just kind of make fitness fun and enjoy being active, and especially if you can pull someone else in there and do it together and challenge them, like in squats. Hey, I'm going to do this many squats. You got to keep up with me, and it's a lot of fun doing it that way.
I like that competition because I feel like I would go super hard. Like I need to beat them. I don't know what they're doing, but I need to beat them.
Yes, all anytime you can challenge someone, it's more fun.
That's cool. What do you do to pass your time when you were doing all the driving? Do you listen to podcasts or like do you try to make your drives as productive as possible?
No, I usually just jam out to music.
Fair.
Really, I mean, my mind just kind of, wanders, and I just think about different things, and it's, really just listen to a lot of different music. This time I listened to a lot of country, little Zach Bryant, got me going half the way. But yeah, I know I don't do a whole lot of productive things. It's just keep my mind from getting too bored.
No, that's fair. I feel like sometimes it's good to just have that space where you can just like think and process, especially when you're in the car for that long. Because I feel like usually when you're going through your day-to-day stuff, you're just like go, go, go. Like you don't have time to just sit and think. So sometimes it is nice to have that kind of meditative time in the car.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because there's some times where I'll be driving to the gym or something like that, and we've talked about this. If it's in the morning, I always pray first, and I have that conversation with the guy. But there's sometimes in the middle of the afternoon, I'll turn on some music or I'll turn on podcasts, and then I'm just like, I'm just not in the mood with noise.
Hmm.
I want to just sit here quietly, and especially if it's a nicer day, I'll have the windows rolled down and just kind of hear that wind, and whether I'm praying or I'm just sitting there and just kind of soaking it all in. Sometimes it's nice to just have that quietness.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I've been enjoying, well, so since I'm not doing my speech anymore, like I was always practicing my speech when I was driving, and now I've learned to appreciate so much more my time in the car because I don't have to be working and stressing about practicing the speech. So even just having that time or being able to listen to music or a podcast just feels so good.
I feel like you buy a little bit extra time, right?
Yeah, for real.
So what about yourself? What's going on in Mackenzie's world?
A lot of fires on the business front. I feel like a whole explosion over here. So
Gosh.
it's just been very stressful last few weeks. Just working really long hours again, just a lot of mental stress and anxiety. So just been navigating that the best I can, mostly and just trying to get through this crazy season. I feel like I'm starting to get to the other side and things are slowing down like a little bit more, but yeah, definitely got a lot of work to do to get to a good spot, but that's been mostly consuming myself and just like a lot of big, just really big decisions for my personal life, for work, and then just like with the speech thing. So there's just been like a lot of really big, heavy things that I'm working through and deciding on. which are good. Like I know they're going to open doors for new opportunities and new things, but it's just been a lot. But yeah, definitely looking forward to getting some. One thing I realized too is I just need some of that time to sit and reflect and think and process some of this stuff because it's tough when I'm literally working 12-hour days, like no breaks in between. So it's like I don't have time to process, but I need to process in order to make the decisions. They're going to move the needle forward in these big things. So it's just like this constant battle.
You ever feel like sometimes it's nice to be super busy because then you're like, I don't really have to think about these things that I'm gonna have to spend some really serious thought about, and then you're like, okay, I got to get down to it.
Uh, no, not in this case. Like I need that space. Like I love that reflection and just that time to sit with my thoughts. And it really bothers me not having it, or just like I have these thoughts and like they can't go anywhere. I try to like jot them down in my notes, but like nothing comes from it. And it just stresses me out because they're just bouncing around in my head, and like I can't get them out and organize them and structure them and implement.
This may sound bizarre, but I feel like one of the most weird, or maybe everyone's like, oh yeah, I totally agree. The best like places and time for that is the shower. Because
Yeah.
it's like there's not like so here's my always thought. And with this, I think I've always loved morning showers because of this. So especially if I had like a lot of anxiety or things going on that day that I was nervous about. When you're in the shower, like you're like time stands still. There's nothing that can happen. There's nothing going on. You're in there. You're getting there for a certain amount of time, and it's just peaceful. It's quiet. You're gonna be in there for a little bit, and then it's just like nothing can get me right here. I'm just hanging out, relaxing while I'm in here. Doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like a lot of people have their best thoughts in the shower. Like it's a common thing, you know. It's a very common term people say because it's true. You have that space. Yeah, it's definitely like for me. I can't shower midday because I'll just be stressed and I mean sometimes I will, but it won't be like that. But my evening shower, like it's long, it's nice and hot, place to either chill music or just sit there. So yeah, it's definitely I lean into that.
That's too funny.
And yeah, I also had my volleyball tournament last weekend, which it went okay.
That pause told me everything.
I'm just very competitive, maybe to a fault. Like the first couple games, we played so bad. I was actually really angry, which was bad. Like I had to go for a walk after and calm down. But after that, I refocused. I'm like, it's not that serious. I just need to go and chill, have fun, like enjoy time with my friends. But then after the first couple games, we somehow made it to the playoffs. I don't literally no idea how, but then we did, which is good. So then the last few games that we had, we played a lot better. We played really good. I was very satisfied with our performance, but we didn't place anything. Like we didn't get very far because the teams were just really good. We played a level up this time, so like didn't place anything, like didn't get super far, but at least we ended on a high note and it was just a fun time overall.
You always want to win. That's the bottom line. If you're going to
Yeah.
play in something like this, like you want to win, of course you want to have fun. And when you reflect on it, you're like, oh, that was a great experience. But at that moment, you're like, you're disappointed if you don't win.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just need to keep catching myself too because I feel like everything is so mental. I mean, training is mental, anything is mental. Like the biggest thing, I always say, biggest thing holding you back is your mind. And it is that same thing when we're playing. Like I can tell me and my partner that I usually play with, either one of us gets in our head and then it just like our performance starts to derail or we start making those extra mistakes. So we're always trying to just stay high energy, stay in that mindset of just having fun and not focusing too much on the outcomes. Because I think when I do, like I just put so much pressure on myself and then I start making mistakes. But if I'm just chill and like going with the flow and having a good time and the energy is high, like my performance is dialed in, like everything is on point. And so I try to tap into that more. And like I know me and my partner try to like get ourselves into that good energy, even if we're starting to make mistakes and stuff. So it's just funny how really everything is mental.
All right. So we have another one planned.
I think I'm gonna do one in July, but it's not officially yet, just because it's such a big time commitment. It's literally all day. Like we got there at 8 a.m. I think we left at like 5 or 6 or something like it, and we didn't even like make it that far. So like it's a long day.
Totally worth it though, right?
Yeah, it just got to pick and choose because I also don't like missing church, and it's like I feel like I have also work I need to do. So yeah, it's totally worth it. Good time, but got to pick and choose and can't do it super frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Well, let's get into topic for today. Want to start us off?
Yeah, so we're talking about why people, or at least in this segment, why people are out of tune with their body. So And you kind of mentioned this earlier. Most people don't really eat based on what their body needs. They eat more so based on what's convenient. That's probably a big factor, right? What's available, what they're told is healthy, whether by their friends or by social media. Sometimes they're just following some random plan that they found. Or, a lot of times, and I see this all the time, someone will post something on Facebook, oh, I lost a couple pounds, and everyone chimes in, they're messaging in, oh, well, what'd you do? What were you on? Send me the plan, some details, and people hop on that, but they're really just disconnected from their hunger cues, from digestion, mood shifts, energy levels, because either they've ignored them, and I think that can be easy to do sometimes. I mean, I know sometimes I'll have a pizza, an entire pizza, and it tastes delicious. And then I'm reminded later why, my body does not love a pizza. Of course, next time I'm like, oh, it sounds good, a pizza. So I don't really reflect and think about like how did my body respond to that? How was my digestion and everything? And so, and then lots of like we just kind of override it. We like, oh yeah, this is what happens every time I have ice cream. This is what happens, or I've been gaining whatever it may be. But it's okay. I'm gonna have it this time, or I'm just gonna just let it go. So it's you have to be intentional. You have to really think about it and be and I think a lot of people, like I said, just they're not in tune. They're kind of disconnected with what their body loves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what happens when you've bounced from plan to plan for years and years. You get stuck in that loop of just tell me what to do instead of asking what actually works for me. Because no coach, no app, no tracker, no diet can tell you that. Only your body can, and most people haven't learned how to listen to it. And people always talk about intuitive eating, and I think that's great. That's something that we should all strive for is being able to eat intuitively, but intuitive eating means nothing if you don't have that knowledge of what works for you. People go and say, "Yeah, I'm eating intuitively," but if they're what's intuitive to them is just some random diet plan or going to get fast food, I guess it's not helpful. So you need to actually be in tune with your body to be able to truly eat intuitively and make those right decisions going forward the rest of your life.
Yeah, eating can be a big social thing as well, and I think there's a lot of benefit to that. But I feel like a lot of times we let our emotions get too involved on just some random event. Maybe we're driving home and we see a fast food place and we're like, oh, it'd be good right now, those burgers and fries. And so like intuitively I feel like I wanted some burgers and fries.
Yeah.
So you have to really think about, you have to kind of pause and be able to override that if you get caught in that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what does it actually look like to listen to your body? So let's kind of break this down. And, if you're like, I don't really get that. What do you mean? Like listen to your body? What does that mean? Well, it's just like real feedback, like stuff that you can notice and apply every day. And so here's a few things that we can start thinking about. So like, how do you feel right after a meal? And I think sometimes we get caught up in too, and I do this, I'm really bad at this. We eat so fast that we don't allow our body to give us those cues of, hey, you're full, or hey, you know what, this isn't feeling that great to me. And so we overeat a lot of times, or we eat a lot of things like, oh man, I don't feel good now because I wasn't really listening to my body. So, things like, are you satisfied? Do you feel good? Like you really should feel energized after a meal. It's kind of like a workout. Like you shouldn't be beat down and worn out, and you should feel energized. You should feel better. And so the same thing after you should feel nourished and feel good about what you did and what you ate, and be able to go on and have it full of energy until that next meal. So on the flip side, do you feel really sluggish? Do you feel bloated? Are you having all these cravings? Are you craving sugar, things like that? That's the kind of real-time feedback that it's basically your body saying, hey, listen to me. I'm telling you right now, like what kind of things work well for your body. And we just need to be able to pay attention to what foods do to our body, and then what the combos cause, how it causes us to respond to that as well.
Yeah, I feel like especially the sluggishness, the bloating, even the cravings, that's stuff that so many people experience on a regular basis. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's just normal. Like, I eat that thing and I get bloated, or I hit that midday wall and I feel sluggish. I'm like, a lot of the time with clients, I'm like, hold up, that's not normal at all. Like, let's talk about that. Let's address that. Because it's stuff that's just so common and normal that people just accept it. But these are things that you actually need to pay attention to because it doesn't need to be that way.
Well, you're right, and we've kind of normalized it, right? There's a couple things that I hear a lot that everyone seems to chime in and be like, oh yeah, yeah. Like one, oh, I have to have coffee in the morning. I have to have caffeine in the morning, or I have to have these snacks at certain times just because I get these big cravings, and it's almost just like that's the way life is. I'm going to have a lot of caffeine in the morning, or I have to have a lot of caffeine in the afternoon, or I need to have these snacks. Otherwise, my blood sugar drops and I feel like I'm craving a lot. And that's your body telling you, hey, there's something's not optimal here, right? And I'm telling you, I'm giving you some real time feedback for you to take this and make some changes. Otherwise, you're always going to kind of feel like this. And that's not really a fun place to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the other thing I kind of mentioned this too is energy levels an hour or 2 hours later. If you're crashing mid morning or you're crashing mid afternoon, your blood sugar probably is on some roller coaster ride. It usually means that your meal was either very carb heavy or you just didn't have enough protein or fiber. And again, your body's telling you, hey, I didn't really respond well to this meal. And so I'm letting you know that next time we need to make adjustment to it because it wasn't the right balance. Next one is digestion. Frequent bloating, frequent gas, or bathroom issues. It's not just random, and it can be also where you don't have much of that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I heard someone was like, "Oh yeah, I go to the bathroom like once a week," and the person's like, "What? Once a week?" They're like, "Yeah, that's pretty normal, right?" They're like, "No, that's not normal at all." They're like, "Well, I've always done that. Like I've always been like that." Again, people just kind of get used to the way they are with the way their body responds, and sooner or later it just becomes like, oh well, this is just the way I am. And again, those are your body's signs of saying, hey, you know what, there's something not right. And so
Mm-hmm.
we need to look at this, and I'm trying to give you some feedback to make some changes. um, your body basically, like I said, is flagging some kind of food or flagging some kind of combo, or it could even be it's flagging like the stress around it, right? And so this is where we really need to recognize it and understand, hey, when I eat this type of food, this is the way my body responds.
Mm-hmm. And one thing to note too is they could technically be like good healthy foods and it could be something that's supposedly healthy for you but your just body just doesn't work for it. For me, like pork just doesn't digest well. That's fine. I just avoid it more than other things. Like I prefer ground beef because it feels better. So there's no black and white right or wrong foods. It's listening to your body and listening to these cues. And another one is just focus and mood. A lot of people don't relate how they're feeling mentally to what they're putting in their body physically with the fuel that they're eating. But some meals will make you sharp and clear and be able to focus better at work, and then others will make you foggy, irritable, anxious. Anxiety, especially. Like that's one that I noticed when I went through a whole process of cleaning up my diet and being more in tune with my body. Is certain foods will trigger anxiety for me, and so that's nervous system feedback. It's not just mental.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed lately too is if I have a lot of caffeine just by itself, like if I'll have an energy drink and I haven't had anything to eat within an hour or two, then if initially it feels good, like I enjoy the taste is really good and I feel pretty good. But then I started getting this kind of like jittery, like anxious feeling and when I first started, I realized like, wow, I just don't feel right. Like I don't feel good. And I started recognizing the trend of, you know what? It's because it probably just jacked up on caffeine and my body's like, it just feels weird. Like we need to eat something with this probably before you have this drink because it just doesn't affect you very well when it's on a full empty stomach.
Mm-hmm. Another one to pay attention to is cravings and satiety, kind of like you mentioned earlier. But if you're hungry, again, an hour after you eat, that meal wasn't balanced. Or if you're craving sugar every afternoon, you might be under fueling earlier in the day or lacking protein. So, all these cues that we talked about tell you a story. And when you start tracking these patterns, not just what you ate, but how you felt, you start connecting the dots.
Yeah, and we'll talk about later, like some ways to do this. But yeah, again, it's just being really aware of how your body responds to these things. All right, so the next thing is like, how do we rebuild our trust with our body, right? How do we get so that we're on the same page here, we connect well? So, how do we get back to listening? And again, I mentioned that a lot of times we just get to the point where we've normalized things that happen and it becomes like who we are, or we think it becomes like who we are. And this is just the way I am, right? So, a lot of it is just really slowing down and paying attention, right? So, how do we do that? Well, observing, being aware, not judging. We're not like shaming ourselves or judging ourselves, but figuring out like what can I do to fix this? What are the things that I'm eating or drinking, and how do I feel after it? And then what can I do to change that? So one thing is keep a log. Like we've talked about tracking food and how that can be so important. But sometimes almost like an emotional feeling type of log, to where you write down, hey, like for example with myself, if I was like, man, I feel kind of jittery, like, okay, so what I would do is I would write down what I just ate and drank, and then I do that every time I feel like that, write it down, and then you look for those patterns, right? And it doesn't have to be in a journal, it could just be on a notepad, it could be a post-it note, it doesn't really matter, but we're gonna look to those patterns and see, oh, you know what, every time I have this energy drink by itself, I get kind of those jittery feelings, right? Or every time I eat this, put in, fill in the blank food, I feel like I'm just craving sugar, whatever it may be. And then again, you find these patterns, and then you start making some adjustments.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ways to do that, and what I did, which I'll get into a little bit later too. But yeah, just start paying attention, like just bringing that intention to how you're feeling, and then you'll be able to start drawing connections. At first, it may not make sense. Sometimes you have to look a couple days back to see what you ate previously to how you're feeling today, but you'll start to see a lot of patterns and be able to draw those connections on what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and the next one is eating without distractions, and this is probably one of the most common issues that we have. So like our phone, it's just glued to our hands, and we're all guilty of it, and we're constantly wanting to pull it out and look at it. And so we've got to put that away, close the laptop, whatever it may be. Don't watch TV. Give yourself the space to actually notice your hunger cues and your fullness cues. Like, am I still hungry? And that was one of the things I was talking about, slowing down. Eating really fast, and then you combine that with eating fast and being super distracted, you have no idea. Your brain is so focused on all these other things that you don't know whether you're hungry or not. And before you know it, you might have eaten a whole bag of chips, or, or you've eaten twice as much as you really needed to. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just stuffed now. And you don't feel good. I have seen a lot of research. And I don't know the exact totals, but I know simply slowing down, chewing your food, and not being distracted, people report big time positive results in weight loss when that's the only thing they do. Just really slow down on their eating, think about, listen to the cues their body is telling them, and then not being distracted, and just either enjoy the company around them or just kind of eat in peace and quiet. They get a lot better results that way.
100%. It really can be that simple. I think a lot of us are guilty too. It seems like a very common trend of whenever we're eating, we're pulling up YouTube or, some like scrolling Instagram or whatever it is. I'm guilty of that too. I've been watching volleyball though recently, like trying to learn some strategy and stuff as I eat. Um, but I've also been trying to be intentional about eating slower too, not just like scarfing stuff down, especially if it's a busy work day. Is just sitting down. Like sometimes I'll like eat and then do some work, so that way it's like going a lot slower. And it definitely noticed a difference in satiety with that.
Yeah, for sure. I know, like I said, I'm always guilty of eating way too fast and being way too distracted, not enjoying the food like I should sometimes. All right, so the next one is return to simple meals. And what I mean by the more processed the food, the harder it is really to interpret your body's response. I mean, these companies that make all these processed foods, I mean, they've got it down to a T now. They've figured out like how to just get you hooked on these foods. And, if you look at something like a bag of chips, I don't know, what is it, like 6 potatoes worth or something? I don't know about you, but I could easily eat a whole bag of chips in a setting, but there's no way I could probably even eat two potatoes in a sitting. And so if we have whole foods, if we have foods that are just really simply made, high protein items, fruits, vegetables, things that we know where they come from and we've cooked them and prepared them ourselves, it's just a lot easier to track everything. It's a lot easier to get those hunger or fullness cues and just have a better meal and more enjoyable meal, and a meal that our body's probably going to appreciate. Next one is ditch the external rules. And what we mean by that is there's some rules out there, like you can't have carbs after 6 p.m. or you can only eat clean foods, or the whole cheat meal mindset of, hey, I'm going to eat clean during the week, but then on Saturday and Sunday I can have whatever I want, cheat meal. And again, replace those with purposeful eating. Why am I eating this? What's the purpose behind it? Am I going to enjoy this? Is this something that my body loves? Is this something that I want to have right now? And the next one is practice curiosity over control. I like the title of this one. So it's our job is not really to fix every reaction. It's to learn from it. And so what I always tell my kids too is it's awesome to be curious, because you're going to learn more things. The more questions you ask, the more you're going to learn from it. So it's not about being perfect. It's not about fixing every single little problem that we have. It's about learning from everything, right? And so every meal is an experiment. Workouts are experiments. Everything throughout the health journey is an experiment, because our bodies are constantly changing as well, and every day is changing. And so one day, you might have a meal and it was great and you felt great afterwards. And the next day you might be super stressed out and you have something you don't feel good. And so again, you're being aware of, hey, why didn't I feel good this day? It's basically the exact same meal. But you're learning from your body, you're learning from the experiences. And so I think that's very important, just to be curious and to understand, really think about, how is my body responding to this and why?
So good. Yeah, me going through and learning this and actually being in tune with my body was, not to be dramatic, probably one of the most transformative experiences of my life. That's what ultimately allowed me to get off all my medications when I was at my rock bottom, when I was fairly underweight, unhealthy, insecure, all the things. And it helped me to basically get to the point where I'm at now. And I went through a process called the elimination diet, which is basically the ultimate way to figure this out. And it's not something that everyone needs to do. It's more of an intense approach. And for people that aren't familiar, basically you're eliminating all commonly inflammatory foods and having a reset period for your body, because when you've eaten the same things for years and years, your body adapts and does the best it can. So you may not even realize how bad these things are messing you up until you go through that reset and you cut them out and then you introduce them back in. And it really shows the true reaction in your body and what works and what doesn't. And so I went through that process. Again, this was because at that point I was listening to some podcast and he was talking about that. And I'm like, oh, I got nothing to lose. Like I literally had nothing to lose at that point. So I was like, all right, I'll try it out and see what happens. And yeah, it really just opened my eyes, especially like I was saying earlier with the foods that trigger anxiety, which happen to just eat a lot of the processed stuff, a lot of sugar, which is no surprise. And then even to the other stuff, like I said, when I discovered pork wasn't good, I discovered sweet potato doesn't digest as well compared to regular potatoes. Just little stuff like that that is super powerful. And it doesn't necessarily need to be some big catastrophic thing. Like for me, like with the anxiety and being able to get off of medications, it may not be like that for everyone, but you will be able to pick up on these small little subtle changes like we were talking about, just digestion or focus, brain fog, how you show up, like energy day to day. So little things like that can be super powerful, and it's very important to have that context. So that experience was super valuable for me. And again, it's more of an intense approach. It's not something that everyone needs to go through. I do recommend that if you have more of like an autoimmune issue or like some bigger issue, that can be valuable to go through that type of diet and that elimination. But other than that, you just need to follow some of the stuff that we've talked about. Like just start paying attention, be more in tune with your body, start taking notes. Part of the elimination diet is having a food log and tracking what you eat, when you eat, and then how your body responds after, especially when you're going through and testing certain foods. It can be very highlighting, very illuminating, especially when you're doing foods one by one and really seeing what the true reaction is, because it's a lot more heightened than it is normally when you're just used to eating a bunch of stuff and just eating the normal baseline diet that you've eaten for years. So yeah, it was just really cool going through that experience. I'm glad I went through that early on too in my journey. That was like the first real introduction I had to optimizing nutrition because for the longest time I was just going into the gym and working out, but I didn't pay really any attention to nutrition. And so me diving into that, it just opened a whole new world. And like once you realize how what it's like to actually feel good and what foods actually work for you, like you can never go back. It's just so illuminating and so eye-opening. And so it's definitely something I recommend everyone do to some extent. Again, it doesn't need to be an elimination diet, but start paying attention to this stuff because it really can change how you show up, how you perform in all areas of your life.
I feel like a lot of people feel okay. Like if you ask them, they're like, "Yeah, I feel okay," but they're not thriving.
Oh
They're not at
no.
their optimal level. And it's like with protein. A lot of people will have like 50 grams of protein, and yeah, sure, that might be enough for them to survive, but they're not thriving on that, right? And so I think a lot of people, if they truly sat down and thought about it and say, "Am I feeling the best that I possibly could?" And if the answer isn't yes right away, then the answer is no, I'm not, and so I think it would be really good to do any kind of version of that, or just at bottom line, just pay more attention to your body.
Yeah, even if people say that they feel good, I would argue, like, if you haven't gone through something like this or haven't been paying attention, like, there's another level. There's many other levels that you haven't even unlocked, and you have to it's hard to really drive the point home because I feel like it's one of those things you have to experience to believe. Once you get to the other side, you're like, holy shit, I'm enlightened. Like, this is life changing. um, so it's one of those things like you don't realize what you're missing until you actually experience what it's like to feel truly good, feel happy, feel energized, have good digestion, good sleep, all the things. And so, again, we just urge you start paying attention, start getting in tune. And another point too is everyone's body is different, so stop copying someone else's plan or their plate. We have clients who thrive with more carbs, other who feel better with more fat. Some do well with 3 big meals a day, others prefer 4 smaller ones. There's no right answer when it comes to nutrition in general with anything as far as how you're structuring, what foods you're eating. There's just your answer. And the more you pay attention, the more confident you get in making decisions for yourself, not just following what someone else told you to do. That's when doors open for you.
This is where the sustainability comes from. This is where the forever healthy and forever I'm going to feel good about myself. It's something that you can do lifelong, forever and ever, and not following someone else's plan, but building one that's yours, building one that fits your lifestyle, building one that's flexible, building one that feels good to you, and it just really supports what your goals are. And just because, when food makes you feel better, I think a big thing too is where you feel good and you don't feel restricted, or you don't feel nervous or anxious or confused about it, then everything is much easier and you just feel so much better about the whole process.
Yeah, it really does help set you up for success long term. Because once you know what foods work for you, it just takes a lot of the decision fatigue out of stuff too, because you can navigate when you're eating out. You're like, oh no, I don't really want that because I know how it's going to make me feel. And like you were talking about pizza earlier, it's like sometimes you want that, like you want that feeling in the moment. You want to have like the instant gratification and be able to eat it, and that's fine. But you know how it's going to affect you. So it's not like you're going in blind and you know what the effect is going to be. And oftentimes it makes you make better decisions in the moment. And then sometimes you have that choice on like what you want, but you know what the outcome is going to be. And so it just really allows you to be able to navigate food choices as you go the rest of your life because you know what works and what doesn't. And it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot. Sometimes people they jump on people that are very disciplined. They're like, oh, well, you don't have much freedom. And it's actually the opposite. When you're
Mm-hmm.
very disciplined, you have so much more freedom because you understand and you know that. And like you said, I can have that pizza whenever I want because I know how I'm going to feel. I know how I'm going to respond to it, but I also know that I don't have to have it sometimes, or I don't, and it gives me the opportunity to think about it. Say, well, I do know how I respond to it, or I do know what my goals are right now, and I'm just not going to do it. but it's totally up to me and I'm totally in control of that.
I love that so much. Yeah. Like it's not like we're cutting out these things the rest of your life. It's just you know what works and what doesn't. For me, yeah, I feel like I relate to that so much. I prefer my meal prep at this point. I love my meals that I eat. I mean, they're so delicious, they're so satiating, and they make me feel the best. And so sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to go out to eat. Like I don't want to have that treat or whatever it is. Like it just doesn't sound appealing anymore because I know how it's going to make me feel. I also know how I feel when I'm eating the right things and feeling my body the way that I enjoy and like right now. Once you find what works for you, you also need to start experimenting with intention. So start listening to your body, but then the next step is actually going to be testing things. So it doesn't mean to jump into another rigid plan. It just means getting curious and experimenting with different variables because you won't find what works for you just by hoping it clicks. You've got to try things on purpose, then reflect and adjust from there. So a few things you can do to start is one is try one food change at a time. So maybe that's adding more protein at breakfast and seeing how your energy holds up, or swapping out dairy for a week and seeing how digestion feels, or try eating early in the evening if sleep has been a little bit off. There are so many different areas and tweaks that we can go and dive into, but just start with one at a time or even just one food choice at a time. Even with the elimination diet, you don't need to do a full elimination. Sometimes you can just pick one thing, cut it out for a little bit, test it and see if it works or if it doesn't.
Well, it makes it more simple. It makes it less overwhelming. And I think you're able to understand better how things affect you, right? Because if I completely change everything and I feel better, then I don't really know what I did. I just know I did everything and I feel better, but what maybe it was just one of those things that I took out. So yeah, I think the more simple you can make it, the better.
That's so important. Yeah, because so many different variables can affect so many different things. Like we got to be able to know exactly what it is. So that way you have the data, you have the feedback, and then you can go and try the next thing. Another one can be meal frequency. Some people feel better with three larger meals, other prefer four to five smaller ones. Try both for weeks, track how you feel, see what works best for you as far as the frequency.
Yeah, and one of the big things is carbs, right? And when to have carbs, how much carbs, things like that. And you can play around with it. Sometimes carbs can be very beneficial to have, before workout or after workout. Just kind of depends on what works best for you. There's plenty of people, I do this as well, where I will not eat anything before I work out, and I feel totally fine. I feel actually great. And then there's some people that are like, if I don't eat something, especially if it has some carbs in it, then my workout's going to stink. I'm not going to feel well.
That's
So
me.
again, it's going to. Which one are you? Or what are you?
I have to eat a little something before I work out. Otherwise, I will just feel lightheaded. I'll feel nauseous. I won't have the best performance. So, yeah.
And that's. I mean, I think it's crazy, like how different we are. Like I can go all night without eating anything. Wake up in the morning, go to the gym. I feel great. No issues whatsoever when I get home. I'm super excited to have my meal, but I feel fantastic. So yeah, you got to know your body. You got to know yourself. Sometimes people will eat a little bit more carbs before bed and they actually feel better. They go to sleep better. Sometimes it keeps them up, depending on what kind of carbs they eat. And so again, you just have to test it out. And then in terms of your workouts, yeah, like we talked about, sometimes people need to have something in their body before, and they can usually tell like halfway through that workout if they're feeling well or not. Sometimes you may not feel any different, but your strength's off. So if you know that there are some times where you'll have a good meal, you go work out, and you're like, man, I felt strong, I felt powerful. And then there's another day you're like, I don't understand the difference. Well, maybe it's just because you didn't eat as much, or maybe you didn't eat the right things or the right amount, and so that's something to play with. And then just thinking about when you wake up in the morning, are you super super hungry? Are you just lacking energy? Do you need caffeine in the morning? Like, and I'm not just saying you want. Like, I like to have a good cup of coffee in the morning, but I'm talking about where you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna be able to function today if I don't have some caffeine. Well, there's something going on, and that's something you have to kind of play with and experiment and figure out what your body needs and what it's lacking. And then using biofeedback as your guide, right? So energy, mood, sleep, digestion, strength, cravings, they're all signals. They're all signals that your body's trying to give you feedback. And it's like kind of calling you out, right? Like, are you paying attention? I'm telling you these things. I'm giving you these things. And we're big game people, right? We're big challenge people. So like it's like playing a game. Treat it like a game, and I think it becomes more fun that way, but also you're going to start figuring things out. And there's a big difference between just feeling okay and feeling optimal. And make it a game, figure out what it is, win that game, become a champion of yourself. And it's amazing how different your life can be.
It really can be fun too. I really geek out on stuff. Maybe it's just because that's how I'm wired and I enjoy like all the data and learning more. But it really is fun finding what works and what doesn't, testing stuff and be like, oh, nope, that isn't it. Or, oh, yeah, we found the sweet spot here. So it really is fun just to stack it piece by piece and just continue to level up as a person.
Yeah, I agree. I'm totally with you on that. I think it's super cool to see the data and then also just see how you feel and again, you're learning from it. So it's not a mistake or it's not like you're like, oh man, I feel horrible today. It's like, all right, well, I now know how this is going to affect me and what I shouldn't be doing and same workouts, eating before, if someone's like, well, I don't know if I should eat or not before. Well, try it out.
Mm-hmm.
Eat before a workout one day. Don't eat before a workout the next day. Do that a few times, see how you feel, and your body will tell you.
That's what we're always talking about with clients too, is people will ask, oh, should I be doing this? I'm like, I don't know, should you? Like, let's try it. Let's try this one, see how it goes, report back, and then let's try the other way. Like, so a lot of times I'm not telling you clients exactly what to do. I'm helping them get to that point where they're able to be more in tune and learn what works well for them and what doesn't. Even going back to what you're saying about sleep too and the data, since getting my Aura ring, one thing I've noticed regarding food is if I eat super late at night, like when I get home from volleyball super late and I need to eat my last meal before bed, my heart rate doesn't dip down as low as it should, and then therefore affects my recovery, my sleep a little bit. And so it's just little stuff like that. Like I geek out on that. I've been loving that. I look at my sleep data every morning. I'm like, all right, where was I at? Like where was my heart rate and stuff? So it's just these little things that become fun.
Well, and we've mentioned this, when I had the continuous glucose monitor. That
Hmm.
was really interesting to see how different foods affect your blood sugar and different foods do affect your blood sugar. And I may eat something and you may eat the exact same thing and my blood sugar may skyrocket and yours may just level out. And so you really have to know your body and how it responds to things.
Hmm.
And it really is how you become the expert of your own body. And it's not relying on someone else's plan. It's not relying on just endless just tracking your food, but building your own internal system for feedback. And so I think one of the important things is kind of taking off the pressure of everything has to be perfect. Every meal has to be perfect. Every workout has to be perfect. Every night's sleep. And just experimenting, be curious, learn more about your body. And you'll be amazed at how much clarity that you can get in just a few weeks, probably.
Yeah. So if you take anything from this episode, let it be this. Your body has been trying to talk to you for years. It's just waiting for you to listen. We don't need another diet. We just need awareness, curiosity, and a little bit of patience. So start paying attention, track how food makes you feel, and let your body show you the path. If this episode hit home and you want support in learning how to eat in a way that feels aligned, come join us inside our free school community. We got trainings, tools, resources, all sorts of support to help you build habits that actually work for your body and your lifestyle. Specifically, our Nutrition Foundations guide that goes over how to structure and approach your diet in the most effective and sustainable way for your goals. I'll link that in the show notes. And if someone in your life is feeling stuck or overwhelmed with food, send this to them. This might be exactly what they need to hear. But appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will catch you next week.